the media tells you, Mr. Trump. We support you.
We love you.
Okay, 4 p.m. We've been 4 p.m.
Come here, let me give you a hug.
Please do.
That was former President Trump at his surprise stop at an Atlanta Chick-fil-A, hugging Michaela Montgomery. Now, she's the founder of a grassroots conservative group, and she says that the media is not being honest when it comes to the Black community's support for Trump. Here's what she told Fox and Friends this morning. Watch.
In the excitement of everything, I wasn't able to really relay my message, but the general consensus or social media would have you thinking that if President Trump were to show up to the HBCU campuses or walk around the AUC community, that like some angry mob would form or a riot would ensue and that he would not be welcomed. And clearly the sentiment in that room the other day was the complete opposite. He was very welcome. People were excited to see him. People showed up in support of him, and people, of course, were from all four institutions within the AUC, the local HBCU community in Atlanta, and they all showed up in support of him. So it's actually kind of crazy to see people in an uproar when all four institutions were legitimately represented, and all four institutions were represented by said students who wanted to support President Trump. And I really appreciate that we were able to not only let him know that regardless of what social media says, you know, I know they're trying to make us think we're supposed to hate you, but we don't. And additionally, it was a learning experience for my students because they were able to see and experience firsthand how the media can warp the perception of an opinion or a person. Because like I said, to think that these students who attend these illustrious institutions aren't smart enough to make their own decisions, so much so that they would only show support for Trump because he bought chicken sandwiches and milkshakes. That in itself is the most disturbing part of it all, especially when you think about the fact that it was mainly urban media outlets that were doing everything in their power to turn other Black people against these young Black kids who simply were not shy to explore other options.
Lisa Boothe, what a phenomenally accurate take.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think Americans are waking up, and unfortunately, they had to learn the hard way. You know, I mean, Donald Trump asked on the campaign trail to Black voters in August of 2016, what the hell do you have to lose? And they've found out a lot under Joe Biden. I mean, you look at polling, the majority of Americans believe and know that they were better off 4 years ago under Donald Trump than they have been under Joe Biden. So I think Americans are waking up. And that's why what we're seeing, it's reflected in the numbers with Donald Trump as well.
Yeah, and let's talk about those numbers, Carly. You mentioned the younger voters fleeing Biden. Remember, that was a person who told African Americans they weren't Black if they didn't vote for him. But a new Wall Street Journal poll finds out that President Biden's support is falling among Black men. 57% said that they favor the president. 30% prefer Trump. But back in 2020, Biden's support was nearly 90%, that too plummeting.
Yeah, and when the Wall Street Journal published those numbers, they said that one of the things they found is that the pillars that hold up the Democratic Party are fracturing. Black voters, Hispanic voters, and young people. And it's happening for a lot of reasons, some of them very serious, like the economy. This is going to be a very interesting election, and the first time it's really ever happened where you have a past president and a current president, where you have actual records that you can look at and see what did I like better? Where was I succeeding more? Where was I more prosperous? And that's how a lot of people are going to vote, with the pocketbook in mind. I also think that people are just sick and tired of identity politics. It's been shoved down our throats and in our faces so much, with the comment that you mentioned about President Biden saying if you want to vote for Donald Trump, you're not Black. So I think that that's not working anymore. It's wearing off. And I love this woman, Michaela. She also said that a lot of young Black people like Trump because he's honest. They feel like he's a politician that's not a snake in the grass waiting for his chance to bite us. There isn't, whether you like Donald Trump or not, he is who he is. You know what he is, you know where he's coming from. He's not a traditional politician in that way.
Maybe because he treats everyone like Americans rather than shoving them into an identity politics box, a caricature of a skin color as the Dems do.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's the great conundrum of Donald Trump that he is a billionaire, no matter how you slice it, and yet he manages to connect much better with average people than Joe Biden ever will. It's almost like a question of distance, and I feel like it's not just black people. I think young people in general, Biden is just your cranky grandfather who tells you, get your feet off the couch, and, you know, the usual get off my lawn kind of thing. And, you know, it just shows you that Trump going out there meeting people. First of all, that Michaela woman, I have a feeling a star is born. I mean, because I was really well articulate. We're going to see her on the couch someday. And I think she really summed it up, is that it just took him showing up, and for the price of what? A shake and a chicken sandwich. He didn't have to forgive billions in student loans to get people to warm to him. And it's because you really can't buy people. You know, intrinsically, when it comes to vote, it's a very personal thing. And they see a lot more substance there and a lot more opportunity for them in Donald Trump than they do in the cranky old guy in Pennsylvania Avenue.
Because money doesn't automatically mean elitism. But with Biden and the Democrats, it does. With President Trump, that's not, money did not equal an elitist approach. He's normal.
Well, their control of money is about that very thing. It is about control and power, rather than the policy that you will hear from President Trump. And he is the best at elucidating, particularly economic policy, even standing in the middle of a Chick-fil-A. And that is about policy that lifts everyone up. And one thing that Michaela did say, she mentioned President Trump's First Step Act, the criminal justice reform, and how that allowed people out of prison who were wrongfully incarcerated for a long period of time. And she said about Joe Biden, Biden locked up a lot of people that look like me, and they're still sitting in jail waiting for, you know, justice and appeal of some sort. And so all of these individuals, particularly young people, they are able to watch, listen, and learn about policy and make up their minds on their own. And that's what Michaela was talking about.
That's right. How refreshing. Hey, everyone. I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.